looking at areas, as the major notes, 3, 5, and Prospect, and saying, what can we do to create some quick attention? What can we do to make sure that aggrieved neighbors or even potential assailants know that there's a lot of activity there? Has shown real effectiveness. I will also note this compliment you all received. I visited with the ATF director last week, and he was very interested. He says hello to the chief, by the way, but he was very interested in our partnership for peace and our ongoing efforts with these programs, because even they, like many agencies in the government, don't have enough resources necessarily to address everything. So the collaborative approach is truly best practices nationally right now. And so I want to commend you on doing that and helping us organize the best ways to address it long term. And I mean, to the press conference that was held last week, having the Jackson County prosecutor, different city staff, council members, et cetera, I think is a good sign of where we're going. And I think it does show the public, which often does get concerned as to what's happening. Does anyone care? I think it shows that whole of government approach that's used in other areas.
Very good. Thank you.
Major, let me ask you one question, and just, it's probably not important, but when you go out to do the interviews or knocking on doors, are there some uniform officers and some non-uniform? How do you?
Yeah, how do you make that determination?
Yes.
So I think it's it kind of depends. So talking about custom notifications, and you guys are familiar with those, right? We send a social worker, then a law enforcement person who would be in either in uniform or have, a badge and gun, and then the prosecutor. So that's kind of a collaborative effort there. There are some where we're knocking on doors where we have information about maybe some specific crimes. And so we are sending law enforcement up there to maybe see if someone's home or to pass on some information that we're looking for someone. But I think the idea with all of this is to not just have it be law enforcement. And so the area canvasses and residence checks that I give, well, everyone's had a hand in it, but Community Engagement Division especially has organized multiple ones. And I went out to a couple, and you'll have maybe 10 police, and then you have all these other community folks. And then we just kind of divvy up. And so, some handing out flyers, making contacts, asking, what do you need? It may be just a couple of community folks that aren't PD, or it may be one of us with a few of them. And we even kind of crisscross. And sometimes, like, I remember I was with this group, then I'd break off and go with this group. So it was, I think it's just more that just collaborative, let's work together. Let's show them, the community, that we are out here together. And that's where I talk about that, relationship development. Like, when they see us, because, we want to be visible in a way where they feel comfortable, right? Not just enforcement, not just I'm here to make an arrest. And that the community partners side by side, that helps us a lot with that, right? I think it shows them. And we have, and also now I'll take away my humble, we have such great, amazing people on this department who are so good. I mean, when they, I'm just in awe sometimes when I go and I sit back and watch them do their thing. I mean, just our ability to relate to people. We just have a lot of really strong leaders and up and coming leaders who this is their focus. So I digressed there, but yeah, so I think it's kind of a mix, if that makes sense. Obviously, if there's some type of enforcement action, then it's going to be, just PD. But otherwise, we're trying to flood it with a mix. And I don't know if Major Thompson has any, I hope I'm speaking correctly to what they do and how they do it. I've been out on a couple of them, but they've been in the mix every single time.
Mr. President, can I add something else right here?
Yes.
There were so many people that were involved in so many entities, and one person in particular that put this together is Captain Danny Graves. He went out of his way to get Mr. Mayor's office involved, in Public Works, Councilwoman Brianna Parkshaw, our social workers, and so many other things. That the collaboration that we saw in this initiative, I never seen it. If there was in the past, I probably missed it, but is everybody working together and not only doing this, but also the follow-up that we have with the mayor's office, Partners for Peace, Kansas City 360. And it was a lot of work for Captain Danny Graves, but he put it all together, and we appreciate the work. But this is also a call for action for our community members too, because we would like to see more community members. They don't have to be community leaders to come in and do the area canvases with us. I know that Major Thompson is always organizing these canvases, and especially those neighborhoods that need help. And we would like to see more community members joining us and doing it with us, because in my opinion, all the community members will have more respect out of everything that we're doing if they also see their community members involved than if they always see the police officers in there. So we need more of them. So can't forget about our federal partners, ATF, FBI, Marshals. All of them were amazing in also helping us with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Patrol Bureau, Deputy Chief Joseph Maben.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My information is under tab D in your books, but you can also follow along on your screen. Here's the median response time report. The top chart shows the median response for priority 1 calls. That's calls that present extreme danger to human life. The median response time for April 2023 was approximately 7 minutes and 50 seconds. That's a 10-second increase from the previous month. The bottom chart shows the median response time for priority 2 calls. That's calls where potential for danger exists, but no injuries have been reported yet. The median response time for priority 2 calls was 10 minutes. That's a 14-second increase from the previous month. The average 911 hold time for the month was 46 seconds. The average hold time for the previous month was 35 seconds. So if we add the median response times to the average 911 hold time during the month of April, we can determine it took officers approximately 8 minutes and 36 seconds to respond to a priority 1 call. And for priority 2 calls, the elapsed time was approximately 10 minutes and 46 seconds. That's a 21-second increase for priority 1 calls and a 25-second increase for priority 2 calls compared to the previous month. A primary reason for the increase in 911 hold times and response times compared to last month is due to an increase in call volume. For example, in March, we received an average of almost 2,800 calls to 911 per day. In April, this number rose to almost 3,300 calls per day. That's an increase of approximately 500 calls. Also during the month of March, officers were dispatched on approximately 18,000 calls for service. In April, officers were dispatched on over 19,000 calls for service, an increase of about 1,000 calls for the month. Next slide shows the median response time for priority 1 calls and 2 calls broken out by division. The priority 1 calls are displayed on the chart on the left. And as you can see from the chart, there was an increase in response times in Shoal Creek, East, and Central Patrol divisions compared to the previous month. Median response time decreased for South, Metro, and North Patrol divisions. Priority 2 calls for service are shown on the right. The median response time increased for Shoal Creek, North, East, and Central Patrol divisions. And median response time decreased for South and Metro Patrol divisions compared to March. Moving on to the April 2023 traffic summary report.
I'm sorry, before you move, you've seen a decrease in some areas and an increase in others. Have we tried to figure out how they were able to decrease their response time and how we can make that better?
It fluctuates month to month. Sometimes it's a matter of officers being on training or more officers being on vacation. And so you'll have less officers in the field for maybe a week or two compared to the previous month. And so it's really, you have to look at a long-term measure to see if it's anomaly or just, month to month changes. Now, we are reviewing right now patrol staffing, and we should have a comprehensive report within the next month or two, comparing on the stations, on if we need to beef up one station compared to another to try to, average out response times. But that's in the works. But month to month it's hard to tell specifically.
So
Hey,
you,
if you go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's all right.
I was say, if you remember 2 months ago, we had the same issue. I believe it was Shoal Creek, where there was a significant increase, and we looked at that, and it just the month before hardly anybody took off. The month where the increase showed, we had vacations, training, and so it was just less officers. I mean, we still had our minimum number of officers, but just less officers handling an increase in calls, and so obviously response times are going to go up.
I assume this is the case. The response time is tied just to personnel. How many officers do you have? Is that right?
The specific response time, yes. That's measured from the time that a call is put into the system, and then the call is dispatched, and then the officers respond accordingly.
But
Now,
how do we fix it? And you're telling me the way we fix it is to have more officers.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Of course, when you start talking about calls, my mind automatically goes back to where are we on call takers? Are we still 20% down, 30% down? And I guess that comes in your report.
Yeah, I'll give you a report on how many we've hired and how many we are potential hires, and then it's actually in McCollum's report, the total.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I have a quick question, and I never have a quick question. It's a broader one. Kansas City Fire Department, due to a number of accidents, has actually changed response policy, which has an impact on slower response times, but our hope is that we don't injure or perhaps kill people in responses. And that is something that has had the agreement of our represented unions as well as city staff. It has not had a particularly negative impact on response. Is there, and this might be a research and development type question, but with law enforcement, has there been discussion, consideration of that kind of even a shift perhaps from just the pure, what are the seconds in terms of response time as compared to what is a good response that gets you somewhere perhaps safely? Now, we have an officer killed in an automobile accident that was not in a response to a situation. I know we have had accidents at other times, but just theoretically, since that has been a discussion we've had of late, perhaps for you or the chief, is there ever consideration of that, and what is perhaps the best practice in law enforcement relating to that?
We do review how we respond to calls when we update that policy. That is our policy, how calls are dispatched. Sometimes you will hear on the radio, like if a call comes out and it's dispatched as one that's a code 1 response. And we've just discussed this even yesterday. We have officers that will evaluate that, and sometimes they will say that they're responding normal speed just due to the circumstances. I don't necessarily encourage that, but if there are situations where it seems just by listening to more of a call, even contacting call taker or additional information coming in, sometimes our response, whether it be code 1 or not, sometimes that does change. But we do, just like all of our policies, we do review those.
Appreciate that. Because very simply, the problem we saw was that we had such a fast response policy at the fire department for a generation that we were rewarding folks perhaps for things that ultimately weren't always as productive as possible for our public. And so just making sure you continue to consider that is vital, because certainly there's another side of the coin too, which is folks want a very efficient response as well.
So our code one response is usually like life-threatening or imminent physical danger or a violent crime in progress. So we do have a specific
Understood.
criteria for that type of response. If I could talk a little bit about the officers, we have in the works a new a shift plan that is the intention behind it is to put more officers on the street, but also allow more officers downtime. So we hope to put that into effect on January 1. We're still processing and going through some of the anticipated issues that might arise in that new shift plan, but that is to put more officers on the street to respond more quickly to 911 calls for service. And that's addressing our staffing issues. While we did just graduate a class at our own break-in, there are 24 recruits right now. Is it 23? 23 that get off break-in the first week of July, and we started another class this past April. So we're doing things simultaneously to try to address our staffing issues.
Another
Both
thing
with
that would
dispatchers.
help is for citizens to call non-emergency numbers when it's not an emergency, 816-234-5111, or they can also report certain crimes online now. If you go to kcpd.org, there's a tab to report, if say there's a crime where there's no imminent danger, they can fill out a report online. They can fill out accident reports now online. And so some of this would help ease the call burden. And so that way we can respond to the immediate crisis calls that we need to respond to.
Following up on that, I noticed under tab K sub F that the calls handled alternatively seem to be way up. And so that, I think, would feed into what you're saying. If,
Exactly.
members of the community, maybe we need to publicize better those other phone numbers to call, because it seems like there's an awful lot of 911 calls that shouldn't be 911 calls.
And we'll continue to push that out. Once we started to offer the online reporting, we had a campaign, and we've seen the numbers steadily increase since we initiated that program. So we'll continue to push that out. So moving on to the April 2023 traffic summary report. The chart at the top of the slide shows the citywide total crash statistics. In April 2023, there were reported 1,506 vehicle accidents. That's a 2% decrease from March 2023. From January 1 this year through April 30th, there were 5,842 vehicle accidents. That's a 17.6% increase from 2022 during the same time period. The bottom chart shows the number of fatal traffic accidents. From the beginning of the year through the end of April, there were 26 traffic fatalities compared to 33 during the same period in 2022. And as of this morning, there were 30 traffic fatalities compared to 38 for the same period last year. That's a 21% decrease. So while accidents are up compared to last year, fewer people have died. This slide shows fatal crash statistics through April 30th. Of note, 73% of the individuals who were killed in traffic fatalities were male, and 50% of the individuals killed were not wearing a seatbelt. Next slide. This slide shows our DUI Wolfpack enforcement activity for the month. We had 13 Wolfpack operations in which we conducted 119 traffic stops, issued 176 tickets, and made 52 DUI arrests during these operations alone. Do you have any questions on the traffic summary report? Now we'll have our monthly community engagement division report.
To the board, to the command staff, thank you. I'm going to start by with the event that really enthralled the city last month, and that was the NFL draft. That was a culmination of several years of preparation by our members in the police department, and it included a multi-jurisdictional effort from our federal, state, and local partners, and it opportunity for us to show our professionalism, for our commitment of our members and all of our outside agencies, to include our federal partners, our city and state and local resources available. The preparation for this event didn't just occur over the course of a couple of weeks. Major Lovelady started by going out a couple of years ago, where he went to Nashville to see how their preparation. 1 year ago, Major Asper and Captain Young visited Las Vegas to on the T-minus 1 year as we prepped for the draft, and to begin the preparation several months ago, leading up to the event. I want to give a shout out to Captain Martinez for being responsible for a lot of the staffing and the changes after changes after changes. Having my role in community engagements division was very small in terms of us helping staff the event, but I can attest to the multiple revisions to the schedule and revisions to the staffing schedule that she had to go to make that event follow through the way it did. And finally, for this event, all of our members and all of our professional staff, our dispatchers, the officers, the sergeants out there, the work that they did to make the event go off in the manner that it did, it's a testament to them. It's a testament to the department, its ability to organize and really create this great event for Kansas City. Item number 2 is going to be our Patrol Bureau showcase.
Can you hold on that for just a second? I'm sorry. I know that I just wanted to take the opportunity when I could. These are all things I was going to hit at my point, but I might as well just talk about them now with the violent crime and the NFL draft. I did forward you all a kudos from the NFL and from their own words who worked with us on scene here in Kansas City, and really talked about how professional, and even went as far as to say we were the best police department that they've worked with. So I think that's a testament to the hard work of the men and women of this police department, both law enforcement and professional staff. I thought our city really represented well on TV. I thought it was a great picture, great visuals. So I think that was a whole Kansas City. We were Kansas City those days, where everyone was happy and together, and our law enforcement was interacting with everyone in our city. It was just a great event. So I just wanted to highlight the positive.
I plan to talk about that so we'll just
Okay.
do it now. But the thing you sent us that was from the NFL at a conference
Mhm.
out in public, I mean, it wasn't just a little note. You did a good job. And they showed a video of how quickly our people responded when the wind kicked up. And of course, they have contingencies in case something like that happened, but they said it was perfect. Our officers just did exactly what they'd been asked to do, planned to do, and I was very proud.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is going to be the Patrol Bureau member showcase. This is Officer Campo and Officer Yoakum out of Center Patrol. They were actually on a call where they were dealing a medical call with a person having alcohol poisoning. And in the course of dealing with the call, they observed smoke coming out of a secondary apartment complex. Quick thinking on their part, they got KC Fire involved. They were able to get inside of the residence and pull everybody out and mitigate and address this smoke fire issue that was occurring inside of this particular apartment. Having been assigned to Center Patrol as a field sergeant, I've worked with both these officers, and I can attest to who they are, their level of commitment to the city, and we appreciate all the work that they do. And to all of the field level officers out there working where the rubber meets the road, we love you, and we care about you, and we appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. Now on to some last some of the things that community engagement has been participating in. Here we have Officer Brandon Walker. He's actually one of our PAL officers. As school's been ending, Walker's been going into the schools, really giving his backstory in this year of the youth, where we're reaching out to youth and the importance of communicating with them on their ground, on their turf, which is their schools, and talking about his role as a police officer, his story, and what his impact on the community. Additionally, when I first came to CED, we identified several areas that we were going to need addressed. And one of the areas that we had a lot of requests from community groups, churches, was we wanted some sort of safety presentation. They were seeking the opportunity to learn from us, and we needed to develop that. So we brought Walker in. Walker created a safety presentation that we've now centralized across the entire division. It's available at all of the division stations. So if you go, you can go through any one of your CIOs, you can contact community engagement, and we'll be more than happy to facilitate and organize an opportunity to come out and give you a general organization's a general safety presentation. The next event was was a town hall meeting at United Believers Church. I actually participated in this event. Pastor Darren Edwards invited us down, where we sat down with members of South Kansas City on a Friday evening, and we talked about crime problems that plagued South Kansas City, crime problems that are plaguing all of our city, and what we can do to bridge the gap between the police department and the community in order to build the relationships we need to combat these violent crime issues. It was a positive interaction on everybody's part. We were able to speak vocally and as a group in front of everybody, and the event was a very wonderful event. And we appreciate Pastor Edwards inviting us into his home and allowing us to participate in this community event. And then so a few weeks ago, myself, Major Thompson, and Sergeant Carter were invited to attend what was the inaugural first ever professional law enforcement community engagement training conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Hosted by the city of Atlanta, it was sponsored by the International Associations of Chiefs of Police and the Department of Justice. They brought in over 900 officers from all 50 states, the U.S. Virgin Islands. We converged on the city of Atlanta, and we had our first ever community engagement conference. It highlighted the fact that here in Kansas City, when you're comparing what we're doing with community engagement to other agencies around the country, we are way ahead of the curve. We are up there competing with our programs and our consolidation with agencies such as Arlington, Texas, Dallas, Los Angeles, and New York. And we were presented the opportunity to actually speak with these organizations, the command staffs of these organizations. And it goes to show that this is where community engagement is moving as we move forward in law enforcement. I've got Officer Villalobos' picture up in the slide. It goes to show that we in Kansas City were doing this before the police conference. When we were in class, we were sitting there. We had no idea this was coming up. They did an entire presentation on what Officer Villalobos has been doing on the West Side for several years prior to community engagement and the work that he's been putting forth. So here we are in class. It was a proud moment for us to be one of the Kansas City people watching the video of Chato doing what he does every single day for this community as a CAN officer in Center Patrol. I'm going to end with this. When we first got to Atlanta, we hadn't been on the ground for maybe an hour. We were eating lunch. We were sitting next to some Fulton County deputies, prosecutors, when we were informed of the active shooter that was happening on Peachtree Street, where we were at, less than 1 mile away from where we were eating. We were watching Atlanta right before our eyes go into lockdown mode. Later at the conference that evening, we had the police chief for Atlanta spoke to us, and that was when he informed the entire group, all over 900 of us, that the suspect had been taken into custody that evening and that no other lives had been lost in that tragic event. And it was very poignant for us to be there at that moment, for converged on Atlanta, less than a mile away from the incident, for the first ever law enforcement community engagement conference. And what it reiterated is that we can't do this without our community partners. We have to work with the community. We have to bridge the gap. So for all our community members out there listening, we need your help. We appreciate everything that you do for us. And I thank all of you for allowing me to speak today. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That concludes our report.
Thank you. Great report. Administration Bureau, Deputy Chief Doug Newman.
Good morning. Our items are under tab E, but of course we'll have a slide presentation you can follow along with. Our first slide is Department of Strength And as always, and I think I'll make this my last board meeting, I say this, we're always 1 month behind on our numbers because our board meetings this year fall at the end of the month. So you get the end of April. So maybe next year we'll have the board meetings at the beginning of the month and you'll get the numbers right away. So I won't belabor that for the rest of the year. But as of April the 30th, our numbers were 1,098 law enforcement. We had 53 officer candidates at that time, 499 professional staff, and 5 Board of Police Commissioners. Our hiring numbers. These were as of yesterday. We have 33 people in the possible eligibility pool, and they're in the middle of the process. We have 4 that are confirmed for our July the 23rd class. And this past weekend, we had 12 additional people pass. All 12 passed. It took the test on Saturday. And I would like to mention that we're holding another test on May the 31st at 9 o'clock at our police academy. So if anyone is listening, you can show up, walk in. We will process you quickly. I'd really like to thank the folks that are doing these processes. When we look at this eligibility process and who is eligible, we just had a class that graduated. We just started an additional class, and I'll talk about them in a minute. But when that happens, it's much different today than it was in the past. We don't have a pool to go and say, hey, we have these 50 people in our pool to have the next class. We basically start at 0 again. So we are processing folks. We start processing folks immediately after we get that class in for the very next class. And that's a short amount of time. And the folks that are working on this, I really want to thank them because they have really changed their processes. Major Haley, Captain Lamport, the sergeants, and all the folks that work down in the Human Resources Division have really stepped up this year to process this many people. Our communications hiring numbers, 9 total new hires. We have 2 pending job offers right now, and there are 16 in the process for eligibility. And Deputy Chief McCollum will probably touch on that in his report with communications. I will continue to put this slide up. We need detention officers. We need detention officers, and we need more detention officers. I'm going to keep putting this slide up. With that, we have 20 interns starting on June the 5th. I talked about the internship program in the past. Very happy to say that we have several folks that came out of high school that are going to be in our internship program that not necessarily do they want to go to college, but they wanted to see what the police department has to offer. So I'm hoping that we will be able to give them some of these jobs that you can be hired on at 18, 19 years old before you can become law enforcement. So that's our goal with some of our interns. But hopefully by the next meeting, you will see 20 interns here seeing what we have to offer with the police department. Here are some of our recruiting events. We had the Big Futures Fair. We were at Lincoln University Academy, the Northland Career Center, Fort Riley Career Summit event, the Herndon Career Center. Some of the other ones, we were at the PRCA Rodeo, and we were also at the Fort Osage High School Technology Center. So again, our recruitment folks are out and about a lot. Our 176th class graduation, they graduated on May 4th. At the time, we had 24 recruits. We have lost one of those during the FTO program, so we're down to 23. Our 177th, which is will be the senior class, they will graduate on August the 3rd. The 178th class just started April the 24th, which was basically our last board meeting. And we have 24 recruits in that class. The 179th, which I was just talking about, that class starts on July the 23rd. And we just announced our 180th class will be starting in October the 30th. So we're hoping to have at least a class of 25 again. I will reiterate, it is difficult to process enough folks from one class to the next in that short amount of time. But we're doing a good job, I believe. On a side note, with what's going on up at the academy, also our Citizens Police Academy had their graduation this past week. I'd like to thank Angela McCune. She really does a good job of putting that all together. And we will be having another Citizens Police Academy, and this time we are going to do it in the southern part of the city instead of at the police academy. We will announce that if anyone would like to participate in our Citizens Police Academy. You can look at our website. We'll have it on there, and I will announce it at the next board meeting as well. Second is the women's self-defense classes are ongoing. Please look at our website. We hold those like once a month on a Saturday. They are full every time we have one. Please look at the website for the dates that are upcoming. So if you'd like to participate in our women's self-defense class at the academy. Next is, I didn't get a chance to mention this. This is near and dear to my heart, but safety in softball happened the day before our academy. That took place. I need to thank the Kansas City Royals, the Urban Youth Academy. This was taken because the boys had badges and baseballs. And in that middle picture there, that's my daughter-in-law on the far left. This was her idea. She's a coach at the Urban Youth Academy. She wanted this to happen because she coaches a softball team. And as you can see, it did come to fruition, and it was a great day. There was a lot of participants, and I want to thank Sergeant Kathy Coots and her staff and others that came down and really put this together to make it a really successful event. And what I didn't know is Bethany down here decided to be a softball coach at our PAL and walked into my office and said, I need some help. And I said, I'm not for sure I'm the guy for you, but we have hooked them up with some folks at the Urban Youth Academy also, and their team, our PAL team, plays in the RBI League, which is sponsored by the the RBI League is sponsored by the Urban Youth Academy. So we're gonna get some of the coaches down there, hopefully, to help our PAL team. So I really appreciate her participating. I went out one day with her, and it's nice. So if there's any, I bring all that up to say, if there are other folks on this police department that has been in the softball world like I have with my own two daughters, please go down and help out. It's very rewarding to go help the kids at PAL play softball. So with that, I have one more item I'd like to address, and that's our wellness section. I don't have a slide for it, but I get a report each month from our wellness section. And I'd like to just throw some numbers here and let you know what we've been dealing with for our members. From April the 1st to May the 19th, our wellness section has been in contact with 144 of our members. Year to date, we've had 20 incident-driven debriefs for our members, which involve critical incidents. We've had 2 non-incident-driven debriefs from into like high exposure units, meaning like our crime scene unit, who day in and day out are dealing with situations, our homicide unit. Approximately 179 of our members have been debriefed. We've attended 147 roll calls at different patrol division stations, and we've had 6 wellness events that our members could go to. Year to date, we have seen an uprise of utilization of our wellness by 15%. So to give you an idea of what's going on behind the scenes for our folks, there's a lot going on in our wellness unit. So with that, that concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions about our hiring processes or where we're at.
For next year, and thank you, Deputy Chief, for the presentation and the progress we've made for safety and softball. Usually they're good at inviting us to badges and baseball before, make sure we know, and I'm sure some of us would like to come out.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Executive Services Bureau, Deputy Chief Derek McCullum.
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. All of your items for the Executive Services Bureau is under tab F of your board book. Item A, budget transfers for fiscal year 2023-24. I request general fund and police grant fund transfers. The general fund transfer moves $210,000 from personal services to contractual services. Due to appropriation cuts to contractual services, this transfer is necessary to ensure sufficient funding in categories for the normal operation of the department. The Police Grants Fund transfer moves $270,105 from contractual services in the amount of $10,281 to personal services, $37,295 to commodities, and $222,529 to capital outlay. The Police Grants Fund transfers adjust appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2022 as the budget was being put together. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Deputy Chief, I have a quick question as to the first request.
Yes, sir.
It's General Fund 100. So we have a transfer of $800,000 from personal services to contractual services. Is that still a thing? I'm looking at the old.
I apologize. We modified that and you should have gotten an update.
Understood.
I
It's the
apologize.
problem with using papers. So just so I'm clear, the Police Grants Fund transfer is still the same, correct? The second,
Yes, 270.
understood. And then the General Fund 100, is there no transfer requested? No?
Well, the general fund transfer, 210.
210. So it's gone from the $800,000 to a $210,000 request
Yes, sir.
transfer. Okay. And this is to cover control. So previously it was going to cover contractual services in the purchasing and supply section in the chief's office. Where does it go now?
It's still the same. It's still going to cover out of the chief's office would be where we pay for legal fees. Purchasing will be things like postage, office equipment, copier rental, laundry, waste management. What we were doing with the initial 800,000, we were going to have put more enough in those accounts so we did not have to keep coming back month after month and doing a budget transfer out of personal services to put that money in there to pay our bills. So I want to say we're paying as we go, but we're keeping the money in personal services for salaries and stuff like that and transferring the money on a monthly basis. Because we don't.
So let me, is it really supplies? I mean, there's part of me that says if you need some supplies, the city has extras, but the 150,000 seems like I just remember we had extensive discussion, I think in the fall of 2021, on maintaining personal services to the extent we can for salaries, personnel costs, all those sorts of things. And so if it is a more amorphous set of contractual services, I would think perhaps there's another way to do it rather than the transfer from personal services. But I guess you can tell me the importance of these particular expenses that we're estimating here.
Yeah, yes. I mean, when the budget came back over to the police department, we had requested one amount in those. When it came back, it was a lesser amount. So we still need funds in there to operate. And the only place that we can pull from is personal services to put enough money in there to pay our bills, essentially.
But in so many, I guess I'll go a few steps, right? I have a fundamental concern with taking money from personal services. So that's threshold matter. So point two, if we're going to take money from personal services on our salary side, it should be something important. And I'm sure this is vital. However, your description was kind of a broader set of things, such as we estimate that we'll have costs of supplies, other types of things we'll need through the year. I mean, and that isn't as convincing to me, perhaps the rest of the board, but nonetheless, kind of, can you give me some specificity as to what that is, such that we need to break that glass jar of personal services?
Well, our waste management, I mean, that's handling our trash, our porta potties at some locations, laundry such as, cleaning the rugs or the shop equipment out at fleet operations or building maintenance. Those are things that are ongoing costs that we need to pay.
So
And
something-
the copiers just to have, the copiers in place to pay the service fees on those, paper related to it and such.
And maybe this doesn't get resolved today, but I think we've had past chats as a board about certain items we could return to the city. For example, waste management. The buildings remain city-owned, right? And so I would think that, right, at a certain point, we have to actually, we being the city, would have to pick up trash from them. Right now, I assume you let a contract for waste management services?
We do, and in fiscal year '23, we requested utilities to the amount of $961,000 be covered by the city based on the conversation we had. Well, then when the budget came back, they had it added back into our budget. So we did make the
I'm
attempt.
saying it kind of this way, remove the money and just say, this is your building. Can you pick up the trash, right? So in a way, you're actually transferring the trash duty entirely to them. If it's money, people are always going to disagree, I've learned, right? If it is actually, hey, can you all do the trash at these buildings because you do the trash, theoretically, city at other buildings, water services, all these others, right? Is there a way that you can, is there a way that can get done? And I don't
The
know.
short answer is I don't know sitting right here. I don't know how easy that is. I mean, the bills are in our name. So, I mean, it would be if the city would send the money over to us. I mean, we could request an IETV or
I'd say
something like
that's the
that.
hardest part of all, but the
Yeah.
easiest, but all right, you got me.
So, okay, so this is what I think I hear you saying. That we have this need, can you take care of it without the money exchange? Like, can you just take care of that, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so is that a conversation we'd have probably with the city manager about that?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that would be very warranted. If the city has far too many buildings, which it does, right, where it's picking up trash at Parks and Rec on 63rd Street, water services on 63rd, and all these other places, and the police department has a separate contract, but frankly, you have far fewer facilities, actually. It would actually probably be efficient for the taxpayers to just actually create that sort of synergy for services such that we don't have the different approaches. Just
Look into that,
Yeah.
for sure.
Thanks.
Well, and along those lines, I know we had that conversation in the past with the general maintenance of the buildings as well. That was supposed to go to the city. And again, it ended up in our budget. So, I mean, there's.
Yeah, I would think that transferring duties is fairly, is something that I just laid it out. And it seems like it would make sense to a normal person that says if there are 6 police stations where we pick up trash, but the department has to have a $110,000 a year contract to do it, then why not the city that's picking up trash at all types of facilities nearby, right? We get that sort of efficiency out of it, which removes almost entirely the budget dispute, and it's purely a services type of arrangement, which
I agree. We have a monthly meeting with the city manager, and I'll put that on my list of thing to bring up. Thank you.
that's all I got for now.
So rather than onesie twosies, can we get a list? You know, since we've had this conversation before,
We'll work on that.
I'd rather us have a list of things and then they can say yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, rather than we keep going back and nitpicking. So.
Okay.
And-
You bet.
I'm sorry.
I just would like to know from the mayor, you've suggested we have them do the utilities. How do we do that?
So here's my problem. I'll be a bit facetious and they get more serious. I guess I grew up with people who didn't pay bills, right? So you just figure out how to handle it week to week. But nonetheless, the real way, so the duty actually extends to the city of Kansas City, ultimately. If the police department, and sometimes I'm a litigator without a case, but if the police department doesn't actually pay its power bills, right, what happens? Well, Evergy would probably say, city of Kansas City, you have a duty to pay, or else we will actually cut off utilities for said building. Same thing with water, if you're paying an apportionment of it, or anything of that sort. Now, so I would think the answer is cooperatively. You don't have to tell people to pound sand. But if it's something as simple as at least what I'm looking at this morning, like picking up trash inside police stations, and the city has people who go around and do that every day, or has its own contract to do that, which I believe it does, then you very simply, to the president's point, say, with trash, whatever other fairly simple things, is there a way to actually get this done efficiently? Some utilities will be more expensive, so the city may try to assign that to you ultimately. But I'll give you an example. The Parks Department, it's been frustration for me for years, doesn't pay its water bill. It's It's very frustrating, but at the end of the year, they tell us, well, what are you going to do? Again, I don't want you necessarily to do that, but they find themselves in a position that we still have to work with them on that. And particularly for some of these lighter expenses, right? Trash pickup, if there are other things that are perhaps less than costs in the millions, but are things that can save us 150 grand a piece, keep it in personal services, I would think that exactly what President Tolbert laid out is the best way to do it. So if you had a list of things that are duties of the city to keep the buildings right alive or afloat, then I might recommend that.
Okay.
Mayor, is that something you can ask the city manager about for us
I
as
could
well?
even tell them
And
to
then-
do that. But yes is the answer. I could easily leave this chat and say, I wanted to keep 150 grand in personal services. City, I think we should just pick up trash. Now, it may be more complex than this, and you may already have a contract for it. I have no idea, but that would be
That might be a great negotiating tool for the NFL draft too. We don't pay
Exactly
our
right.
bills, but that way we get paid for it. I like that.
it's transfer of duties is my thought.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
So are we not going to transfer the money and pay the bills?
Is there, I see from your staff, is there an existing contract to
I
pay
believe
the
there,
people who pick up
I
the
believe
trash?
there is. Yes, we're in an agreement, I know, with Waste Management. Correct, yes. So to be honest, this is not enough to cover us through the year
Right.
anyway. We were just or requesting a transfer of enough funds to get us basically through the month or then the next month. So this was our plan to come back here every time rather than doing an $8 million transfer from personal services at the first board meeting. And then go back, to the city and ask for additional appropriations to pay these at the end of the year because we saw this was going to be, well, this is what we were going to run into when we missed out on getting that additional $13 million.
So here might be a proposal I would have for you, and I despite whatever upbringing I knew, I do want you to pay your bills. So I would imagine then we should pass these items for this month, but I would then ask per President Tolbert's direction, where are there certain services that seem easily transferable and perhaps from an economies of scale basis might make sense for the city to take over. Then the second step of that will be, where can you get out of contracts related thereto? If you have an ironclad 3-year contract with Waste Management to clean up police facilities, then that presents some challenge. If there's not such a sufficient bargaining restriction, then you're not in such a tough place. The other thing that may help you get out of that contract is that they may also have contracts with the city of Kansas City already. And so there's a way. But I would think that a two-step of, we'll do the money now, but between now and the next meeting, we have the list of things where there might be this opportunity to transfer duties rather than costs, then gets us to a place that we can see what we might be able to do to save some money.
Certainly, absolutely. Can I ask one thing though? Until we get this resolved, I mean, me personally and me professionally, I don't feel comfortable not paying our bills. I think it looks bad on the police department to not pay our bills. I personally don't miss my payments because I don't like to pay late fees, and I just think it looks bad as an organization. So I think until we get it ironed out with the city, I would like to continue
With that, I
to.
agree. And that was my thought of point one, pay. So do the transfer now.
Is that a
Right.
motion?
Yes, so I would
I
have.
second it.
Yes, we actually agree.
Okay.
So all we're asking is to do that work that we have discussed now subsequent to this conversation and perhaps come back to us to see if there are certain savings to that effect. But do pay your bill this month.
All right. You bet. We'll start working on it right away.
I'll move to that effect.
You heard the motion. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item B, TBL Systems Incorporated renewal. In cooperation with the city, our department obtained a mobile web electronic citation package and stop report solution with Thin Blue Lines Incorporated, also known as TBL. The system has been in place for several years and is designed to improve officer safety, efficiency, speed, and accuracy. The annual subscription renewal for the period of May 1st, 2023 through April 30th, 2024 is $461,203.20. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Has this increased our efficiency and revenue?
I'm sorry? What?
So isn't this a ticket writing
It
system?
is. Mhm. And it captures our stop report data.
His question was, did it increase revenue?
We
I
don't,
don't know.
yeah, sorry. I was just talking with the chief. We don't have revenue. The
Okay.
revenue is all by the city.
Gotcha. Okay.
I move approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item C, Hexagon renewal. On September 15th, 2015, the board approved the purchase of a computer-aided dispatch system, more commonly referred to as CAD, from Hexagon, formerly known as Intergraph Corporation. The annual renewal period is from June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024. Unless you have any questions, I request your approval to renew the annual maintenance for the Hexagon CAD system for a total expenditure of $438,887.40.
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item D, bid 2023-11 ballistic protection vest renewal. On May 24th, 2022, the board approved a one-year contract to Ed Rohr Safety Products to provide ballistic protection vests. The original contract period was from June 1st, 2022 through May 31st, 2023, with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods based upon mutual agreeable pricing, availability of funds, and quality of service. This will be the first renewal period. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval to renew a one-year contract with Ed Rohr Safety Products for an anticipated expenditure of $589,371.
I move approval.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
2023, item E, 2023 Combat Law Enforcement School-Based Initiative Cooperative Agreement. The 2023 Combat Law Enforcement School-Based Initiative, formerly known as DARE, is designed to provide students with knowledge, positive self-image, and social skills needed to reject the use of illegal drugs and controlled substances. Part of the Jackson County anti-drug tax is funded through the Combat Commission to the department to run a law enforcement-based initiative program in parts of Kansas City, which lie in Jackson County. The award is in the amount of $225,000 and for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. Unless you have any questions, I request your approval to accept this award.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item F, niche renewal. On September 15th, 2015, the board approved the purchase of a record management system from Niche Technology Incorporated. The cost of the renewal is $329,520 for a period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
On to communications update. Currently, we have 39 dispatchers and 31 call takers. That's down 26 from where we need to be compared to 25 last month. As Deputy Chief Maben discussed, our March wait time average was, April wait time average was 46 seconds compared to 22 seconds in 2022. Just to bring it to your attention, so over a month's period of time, the dispatchers will handle 135 calls per hour. That equates to 3,253 calls a day, or 97,590 for the month of April. That's a heavy load. That is up from the month of April from 82,000 the year before. That's a combination of 911 and the non-emergency line. I think a reason for the increase in wait time is for a couple of reasons. Staffing is the biggest. The increase in the calls that have come in, you went from 82,000 in 2022 and 97,000 in 2023. But we also have trainers. So when you have trainees on the console, it's going to take a little bit longer to answer the call, to clear out a call, then get to the next one. So there's a little bit of growing pains that occur with bringing new employees on. There's a learning curve in place. So we expect those to hopefully get back in line as soon as these call take trainees get off of their break-in status. We have 2 dispatchers in classroom training, 2 dispatchers on the floor, which are training, nearing the end of that program, and then 9 call takers on the floor in various stages of training. We attended several events throughout the month. One was at Fort Osage Career and Technology Center on May 15th. Made contact with 18 people, had no interest at that time. They did take our information, but we have not heard back from them. And then attended 2 sessions at the Full Employment Council on May 17th. Made contact with 12 people. 2 were not interested due to hours, and 1 was more interested in being a parking control officer. So unless you have any questions, that's the end of my report.
Can I give one recommendation? On my discussion, if you actually just start with the Public Works Director, he probably would be the one who could very efficiently, and we have quite a bit of stuff there. That'd be a nice starting point for them.
You bet. Thank you.
Chief's Office, Executive Officer, Deputy Chief Steve Young.
Good morning. My one item is under tab G. It is a board resolution to refresh the Deferred Comp Committee, which is required by our Deferred Comp policy. And if you have any questions, otherwise I recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Officer of General Counsel, Ms. Jenny Atterbury.
Good morning, Commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Whitaker. My items are under tab H in your book. Under tab H, you'll find a private officer's license appeal from an April 14th, 2023 denial of an armed license. In your packet is also the appeal letter from the applicant. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, the private officer's licensing unit recommends upholding the denial of the license.
Any discussion? Is there a motion?
I don't think we should uphold the denial. I think this man should have a license. I move that we allow him to have a license.
I second that motion.
All right, it's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioners. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Office of Community Complaints, Director Merrill Bennigan. Public comments, you have 2 minutes. I think it's Justice Horn will be the first speaker, and Ron Hunt is the second.
So I have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Justice Warren. I serve as chair of the City of Kansas City's LGBTQ Commission. And this is my first time in this room, so I'm a little nervous. That's why. I speak today on behalf of the Kansas City LGBTQ community with some concerns, obviously with some uncertainty with you have a lot of sands changing here in the community from the emergency order to bill signing to the passage of the Kansas City sanctuary city status, as well as commitment from the Jackson County prosecutor. And, I really want to emphasize that, action speaks volumes and words matter. Here recently, one thing, I do want to credit to the department is having officers show up for Trans Day Visibility, AIDS Walk KC, hosting local and regional LGBT liaisons, community, commitment to being Pride in 2023, a commitment by the LGBT liaison, showing up after the Club Q shooting in our community, as well as also being at our LGBT town hall. And here recently, the statement by the chief of police. One concern we have is if there is a clear statement either by the department or the board itself on how KCPD is going to navigate this time, especially when people are fearing for their lives and not knowing if their institutions are going to try and take life-saving care from them. Words matter, especially right now. Your actions have showed that you're committed to this community, but I really want to push either the board or the department to lay out clearer policies so people aren't not knowing what's going on in their institutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Hunt?
Good afternoon to the mayor, bishop, chief. How you doing? Deputy chiefs. Where's Bobby? Hey, we got to have more than 2 minutes sometime, bishop. Y'all got to
You
somehow
got 2
change.
minutes, Ron, and it's still morning. And it's still morning.
So, okay, I've been here so long, but first of all, great kudos to the PAL, whoever oversees the PAL. That's one of my main programs, and we plan on doing some things. Thanks to Major and Corey and some of the others. We have a big meeting tomorrow, but I want to talk about the drug houses and the crime. I've emailed some of you guys about the drug houses and the crime. As you know, crime is up. We had a heck of a weekend. And so I've been talking to some of the street guys and Darren Edwards. We're going to meet with some club owners, Bishop, the mayor. We're going to, how many of y'all remember Clara McCaskill? Back during that day, she had an initiative that we were actually, the neighborhood residents will actually go and confront the drug houses with the police and say, you just got to go. And it was really effective. Y'all may not have known that. That was really effective. We're going to revisit that because we have a cultural problem. And I'm not ashamed to say that. We have a cultural problem. The police department has nothing to do with black on black crime. I'm gonna be honest with you on that. And I tell my Facebook friends all of that. Nothing to do with black on black crime. I appreciate you guys responding to crime, picking us up. Yesterday, we had a horrible shooting over there on 39. This got to stop. We got to start confronting, I'm talking about us as African Americans, we got to start confronting each other about this crime, getting rid of drug houses. I'm tired of looking at drug houses.
You got 30 seconds, Ron. You got 30 seconds.
I'm tired of looking at drug houses. And so what I want to do, and I need y'all support. We're going to go and confront some of these people, but we need the support of the police department. Straight up, you're not the cause of crime in our community. You're not. You're not. And I invited one of my social media friends, one of my ambassadors. I'm a health ambassador, Bishop, real quick. I'm a health ambassador. So, and one thing, and she knows, and we just showed Kari, I defend you guys. I said, you gotta come to the police board meetings and see what they do in its entirety, especially the POWER program. If you keep doing the POWER program, that keeps you guys engaged with these little videos. They see shootings all the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. But yeah, so I need y'all support.
Thank
I
you,
really
Ron.
do. Thank you.
Ron, thank you for what you do. We appreciate you too.
I hope so.
We really, we do. General discussion from Chief Stacy Graves.
Following that.
I don't know. I don't know. I just wanted to welcome Commissioner Whitaker. I appreciate you stepping into this leadership position. I know that it's your time is valuable, and for you to take on this role is admirable, and I appreciate it. It's also good that you're 2 doors down at Jay Dunn, so I look forward to working with you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how Dunn has been so important to the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and to include the building that we're sitting in right now, the 1938 building that's attached. And all the work that goes on behind the scenes with the Dunn family's involvement in making Kansas City safer and better, not just with construction projects. So thank you very much. So I was going to talk about NFL draft. Check that off. Violent crime. We continue our efforts in some of our areas, specifically 35th and Prospect. And while we talk about all of the ways that we've come together, we still have violent crime. Last night we had a double shooting right on the edge of the boundaries that we had created to try to suppress some of that violent crime, and someone lost their life last night. And that's actually been the second homicide that's happened in that area, or actually just on the boundaries of that. So I just want you to know that our commitment stands firm. We won't be deterred. We will continue to respond. I just wanted to let you know that. Otherwise, on May 11th, I had one of the first quarterly listening sessions that I promised as I came into this position. Had probably close to maybe 100 of our community members show up. It was a good conversation. I advised them of all the things that we're doing both internally and externally, and also discussed the violent crime response from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department as a collective with all of our partners, as you heard about earlier today. So I thought that went really well, and I actually was thankful for that opportunity to address Kansas City. In that, I just kind of, I guess we already talked about the violent crime. We had that press conference last week. To sum all that up, KCPD is working. We're working hard, and we're committed. So that's all that I have for today, unless you have any questions for me.
How many days is it now?
Oh my gosh. 5 months and a week.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. Approval of open session minutes, April 25th.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
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 All opposed by no. Ayes have it. David Kenner.
Yes, thank you. It's time for board elections. And so we need a president, a vice president, and a treasurer.
I nominate Kathy Dean for president.
I second that.
All in favor by sign of aye.
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 Opposed by no.
Vice president?
Vice President, any nominations?
Don Kramer for vice president of the board.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
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 All opposed by no.
And a treasurer?
Tom.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
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 All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Thank
Done
you.
deal.
That's all I have.
Mayor Quentin Lucas.
I share the viewpoint of others in welcoming Mr. Whitaker. It's good to be with him today, and look forward to many years of service together. Although I have an election between now and the next meeting, so we'll see if I get to stick around with you. I will note the following in response to the jail conversation raised by Commissioner Kramer. My staff emailed me after that discussion, and I'll just read with you some of the following because I think it is real progress. The city manager met with the county administrator and the contracting team that is working on the Jackson County Jail and confirmed that the contractor could build pods for Kansas City that could be connected but separate to the jail pods for Jackson County. This is expected to be a faster design. This will also help facilitate sharing of the mental health facility, which the city would pay a usage fee to access. Each pod facility is 128 beds. The city manager suggested 2.5 of those. That would put us at roughly 360 in quick math bed spaces in connection with this is where the political discussion could become challenging. This approach would require a procurement waiver. Those are hard sometimes, but it does meet the conditions, i.e. efficiency, price, and other items. There were 3 council members on a call discussing that. None raised objections. The next steps will be likely, there is an ordinance in city council now that speaks to the future or a future of a jail. City staff is working to see if it can be amended sufficiently to address that sort of issue and provide funds for a contractor to add a city facility in connection with the design. But that, in so many words, is where we are. So if you're looking for where things go awry, something I'm used to now, it would be a trip up on procurement or budgeting. I think there's sufficient budgeting identified. I think the procurement waiver, given recent conversations at City Hall, could be probably more interesting. But representations by the contractor can likely cure that concern for us. With that, I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Whitaker?
Thank you. As the first public speaker, Mr. Horn stated, while not my first time in this room, I'm a little nervous today too. But I have been reflecting upon my journey getting to this table and today's meeting, and what I consider, what comes to mind, I should say, is gratitude. I am very grateful for the commissioners and the mayor showing me a warm welcome, and to the chief of police also, and to many others that have started to help orient me on what is in front of me as we move forward. So I'm very eager to learn more and understand the strategic objectives and try and help how I can in whatever way with the issues, needs, and concerns, and move forward. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and welcome. Commissioner Kramer?
And again, I'd like to welcome you, Tom, and we appreciate you joining us and are happy to, have you on board. So thank you. And just want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting us those answers, and, whatever you need from us, we're here to support that and support you. And Chief put out a great YouTube video this week with what we had been talking about, the collaboration and everything. And I just want to say thank you. I thought that was great. And hopefully lots of viewers are listening and can get on and see that, because I know the city and the board and everybody, the police department, you guys have all worked really hard on, this violent crime initiative. And this is the first step. So thank you guys for everything you do. Appreciate you.
Commissioner Dean?
Well, I welcome Tom. I'm very pleased to have him with us, and I appreciate his willingness to serve. I'm also humbled by the idea of being the president of this board. That's not an easy job. I've been watching this man, Bishop Tolbert, do it for a while, and I can see it's not easy. And I'm not looking forward to it, but I will do my very best. And I'm so glad that the bishop will be here and to help me, because I'm going to need some good counsel. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been a little bit more than a part-time job in this position. And of course, Nathan Garrett, who served before me, and I just had a brain freeze. Don Wagner. And who was before Don?
Leland Shore.
Leland Shore. So I've had an opportunity to collaborate with all 3 of them. And of course, working through getting a new chief There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, on the weekends, early mornings, late nights. And so while I am happy to be stepping down as president, I will be making the meetings to help to foster a good transition, because it is up to this board to try and keep the peace and help us facilitate what is best for our city overall. And so, Chief, I'm glad that we got the right chief in place. I think that your being put in as chief helped the city to go forward. And of course, all of the events that we've had, we had to have this right before those could go right. So we appreciate you. I've had a wonderful time working with all the deputy chiefs, and I'm looking forward to not facilitating these meetings, but being able to sit in one of these other seats. But thank you all for your help and cooperation. It has been 6 years coming November. I did Alvin Brooks' final 2 years, and now I've served, it will be 4 years in November. So November will be my last meeting. But thank you all. Thank you. All right. We need what is this, David, on the bottom? Informational items?
They don't require action.
Okay.
We just need a motion to go into close.
Well, we need
I
a
move that
motion
we
to.
adjourn this meeting
Thank you.
and go into close.
Second, and Lucas, aye.
Dean, aye.
Kramer, aye.
Tolbert, aye.
Whitaker, aye.
Right. So.